Welcome. It's so good to see you again. Today we are here to talk about sixes. Type 6 of the Enneagram. And sixes are fascinating. They are considered the true believers. They are considered the loyalists, the troubleshooters, the traditionalists, the stalwarts, the guardians. So they have some very interesting qualities. Let's talk about the quiz that goes with the beginning of every chapter that we talk about. We are going along with the wisdom of the Enneagram, and each chapter begins with the quiz. And what you want to do is you want to basically take each question and you want to label it a 1 if it is not at all true, 2 if it is seldom true, 3 if it is somewhat true, 4 if it is generally true, and 5 if it is very true. Okay? So, moving on here, number 1. I am attracted to authority, but distrustful of it at the same time. So, number 1 is I am attracted to authority, but distrustful of it at the same time. And so you're going to score it 1 through 5, depending on how true that is about you. Okay, 1 through 5. Number 2. I am very emotional, although I don't often show what I feel, except to those I'm close with, and even then, not always. I'm very emotional, although I don't often show what I feel, except to those I'm close with, and even then, not always. Number 3. If I make a mistake, I fear that everyone is going to jump down my throat. If I make a mistake, I fear that everyone is going to jump down my throat. Number 4. I feel more secure doing what's expected of me than striking out on my own. I feel more secure doing what's expected of me than striking out on my own. Number 5. I may not always agree with the rules, and I don't always follow them, but I want to know what they are. I may not always agree with the rules, and I don't always follow them, but I want to know what they are. 6. I tend to have strong first impressions about people that are difficult to change. I tend to have strong first impressions about people that are difficult to change. So go ahead and score that one. Is that not at all true, seldom true, somewhat true, generally true, or very true? Number 7. There are a few people I really look up to. They are sort of my heroes. There are very few people I really look up to. They are sort of my heroes. Number 8. I don't like making big decisions, but I certainly don't want anyone else to make them for me. I don't like making big decisions, but I certainly don't want anyone else making them for me. Number 9. Some people see me as jittery and nervous, but they don't know the half of it. Some people see me as jittery and nervous, but they don't know the half of it. 10. I know how much I mess up, so being suspicious of what others are up to just makes sense to me. I know how much I mess up, so being suspicious of what others are up to just makes sense to me. 11. I want to trust people, but often find myself questioning their motives. I want to trust people, but I often find myself questioning their motives. So you'll score that one, 1 through 5. 12. I am a real hard worker. I keep plodding along until the job gets done. I am a real hard worker. I keep plodding until the work gets done. 13. I sound out the opinions of people I trust before I have to make a big decision. I sound out the opinions of people I trust before I make a big decision. 14. It's really weird. I can be skeptical, even cynical, about all kinds of things, and then turn around and fall for something hook, line, and sinker. It's really weird. I can be skeptical, even cynical, about all kinds of things, and then turn around and fall for something hook, line, and sinker. And 15. Anxiety seems to be my middle name. Anxiety seems to be my middle name. Score that 1 through 5. If you score, you're going to add up all of the numbers. Okay, and once you have that number there, if it's less than 15, you're probably not a compliant type, so probably not a 1, 2, or 6. If you have 15 to 30, you're probably not a type 6. If you have 13 to 45, you most probably have 6 issues or a 6 parent. 45 to 60, you have some 6 components for sure. And 60 to 75, you are most likely a 6. But you could be another type if you are thinking a little bit narrowly about a 6. But chances are the case is strong for you to be a 6. If you scored 60 to 75. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at 6s. So 6s are considered, they're kind of called the loyalist, and they tend to hang on to relationships. Once they commit, they are committed, and they tend to rely on beliefs and structures and ideas, and they will hold on to those things. They tend to struggle with self-confidence, and so they hold on to ideas and structures as a way of bolstering their self-confidence and their self-esteem. They tend not to believe in their own minds and their own judgment, and so they tend to use other forms of structure and other people's ideas as a way of kind of holding up their own security and their own feelings of confidence. They don't like to be controlled, but they tend not to like to take responsibility for their own decisions. So it's a very difficult conundrum. It's a struggle for them. They want to be supported, but not overwhelmed, and that's a difficult balance sometimes for them. They're considered kind of a bundle of opposites. They are very desperate for support, but they don't want you to be too supportive. They want to be loved, but they don't want to be overwhelmed by or suffocated. So they can be considered kind of a bundle of opposites. Some examples of famous sixes: Bruce Springsteen, Michelle Pfeiffer, Gloria Steinem, Mel Gibson, Janet Reno, Richard Nixon, Robert Kennedy, did I say Malcolm X? Malcolm X, Tom Clancy, and they consider those to be sixes with a 5 wing. Those are people who have a really high, tend to have a high expertise in something technical, and so they tend to have a really, they tend to be good at solving practical problems and being good at practical things, and can be good at things like science or law or mathematics, good at specific concentrations. They can also be good spokespeople or champions for causes, so that makes sense as well. And so that would be a 6 with a 5 wing. And then 6s who swing kind of the other way with a 7 wing would be people like Princess Diana, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, Julia Roberts, Jay Leno, Ellen DeGeneres, Rush Limbaugh, Jack Lemmon, Katie Couric. These are tend to be entertainers. They are very, very good at connecting with others, using energy and humor. They're very, very fun, very good at connecting with people. They turn fear and scary situations into bonding and jokes and connecting. So they tend to do, as you could see by the famous people, they're all entertainers and they're all very good at humor. Oftentimes, if sixes who are concerned about, who are worried about self-preservation, they tend to focus on financial issues. They tend to be worried about money. They focus on catastrophic thinking and worst case scenarios, and they tend to worry a lot about kind of end of the world type issues, and things are going to fall apart. And they tend to be panicky. They tend to stay in bad marriages or bad relationships, and they feel as though the situation they're in is better than no situation at all, or better than the worst situation that they can imagine. And so the situation they're in is better than the terrible situation they can imagine. And so they'll stay in a bad situation rather than getting into something worse they fear. They tend to look towards friends and allies for support and reassurance. They oftentimes will reach out to 12-step groups and things like that. They're good at reaching out for support in groups. They can have difficulty. Anxiety can get in the way sometimes of decision making, and so they oftentimes find difficulty in being in reaching a consensus, because they look to so many people and so many varied people for advice, that they get stuck and they have difficulty making decisions. In terms of sexuality, sixes sometimes turn to physical attractiveness and power and strength in order to feel safe. They mask their insecurities through being assertive and kind of defiant, and flirtation and seduction. And so they will sometimes go overboard in trying to seduce or trying to be overly seductive, and in order to overcome their insecurities. And unfortunately, it can sometimes lead them to become a little bit paranoid and a little bit, they can lash out a little bit at partners if the partner doesn't respond appropriately or respond with enough affirmation of the six. Yeah. In the healthy range, sixes are really secure with themselves, grounded, serene. They're considered valiant. They're friendly and trustworthy and engaging. In the unhealthy range, when sixes are struggling, they tend to blame others and get into power struggles. They become panicky, depressed, and helpless. When they are struggling, they seek assurance and insurance, and they kind of are tempted to they tend to turn towards safe bets and reliable things that they are 100% sure of, and they tend to stay in their lane and inside their box, and they stay stuck. They are often known as the responsible one. They put in long hours at work. They will sometimes they feel as though they're being taken advantage of at work, because they'll work long hours. They're the one that comes in early and stays late. Sometimes they feel like they should have the guarantee that, if they're working hard and doing everything they're supposed to, that they'll be rewarded, and that God will take care of them. And unfortunately, this isn't always the case, and sometimes sixes end up feeling bitter and angry that things didn't work out the way that they were supposed to. Yeah. Sixes sometimes become really fixated on their fears, and they become focused on the fact that they can't control the world, and that their fears are just, they're ever present. They run the risk of becoming sort of dependent on someone else in order to become independent. They are unable to reach independence on their own, and the more they sort of rely on others, the more they seek independence, the more dependent they become, and it is this vicious cycle, and they fall more and more into dependence. They tend to become mistrustful of authority, and they tend to, if they find someone that they feel is a good authority figure, they'll hang with that person until the bitter end. They will they have difficulty because they find it difficult to satisfy everyone in their lives, and so they tend to end up feeling spread thin and overwhelmed, and so they tend to feel like they can't help everyone that they're obligated to help, and so they often end up feeling as though they are that there's too few of them, there's too little of them to go around, and that they are damned if they do and damned if they don't, and so they end up feeling sort of bitter about that, and sort of feeling indecisive as well about that. Like, they can't come up with a plan that will serve everyone and help everyone, and so they end up paralyzed. Oftentimes, they are the ones who will complain without taking direct action. Sixes are the type who will complain every day at the office, but never actually do anything directly about the situation. They'll complain and complain and complain, but never speak directly to the person that they have the issue with, or never directly act on the situation that is bothering them. They will simply talk around and about the issue forever. Some real warning signs for sixes. One would be intense anxiety or panic attacks, acute inferiority feelings, and chronic depression, constant fear of losing support from others, alternating dependency and impulsive displays of defiance, keeping bad company and attachments to abusive relationships, extreme suspiciousness and paranoia, and hysterical lashing out at perceived enemies. And those would be signs that it is definitely time to seek out some professional support and help. That's when you're going to really start to get into things like borderline personality disorders, passive aggressive behaviors, panic attacks, things like that. Yeah. In order to kind of work on some the ways that sixes can work on themselves is to focus on the here and now. You want to think of who you trust and what you trust and how you came to your decisions. Notice the procedures or allies you automatically turn to when you're unsure of yourself. You want to sort of interrogate those moments. The more you're able to see the truth of who is that internal voice that is helping you make decisions, who is that truthful sort of internal voice that's helping you make decisions inside of you. The more you're able to discern that voice and listen to that voice, the more you can discern that voice is yourself, the better you'll be. The more you'll find your quiet mind and come to the right path for yourself. Yeah. While you want to be there in a responsible way for everyone else in your life, you tend to shortchange yourself by not believing that your own self-development is worth the trouble. And you want to think about the fact that one of the things that's maybe holding you back is your fear of change. And if there's nothing that's more certain in our lives, it's the fact that everything is always and constantly changing. Nothing stays the same from moment to moment. And so if you were able to work on embracing the fact that everything changes constantly, and if you could maybe work with someone, a therapist or a group, on this particular fear, this fear of change, it could help bring you some peace and some serenity. Yeah. Also, another thing that might be helpful would be to help if you could cultivate some quiet time for yourself, where you are turning inward and having some time to meditate, to have a peaceful moment, to calm those voices in your head, to calm those fears. And again, having some support with that is probably going to be important. Just doing that on your own is really difficult. Those voices are really loud and really difficult to ignore, so having some support with that would be really important. Yeah, so healthy sixes are endowed with tremendous endurance and achieve their objectives through steady and persistent efforts. So they have amazing endurance and persistence. And so they're able to do things that other people aren't. Shackleton on the ice. And so, and they also love a common purpose. So they love having the feeling that they are on a task with others, achieving a common purpose. Getting involved in groups and volunteering and doing things with others to achieve a common purpose makes sixes feel good. Feeling peace in the world, a feeling of inner solidarity and profound connection with themselves and all living things. Feeling connection and peace and grounded openness is really important for sixes. Yeah. So it's really important that sixes work on connecting with others and finding a way to find that common purpose and doing, so that they can find that open groundedness in the world. And that can be a way to calm those anxieties, to do and to connect. Yeah. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It was lovely. I enjoyed it. And next time we will talk about sevens. Sevens are fun because sevens are enthusiastic and fun, and it will be fun to talk about them. So next time we will talk about sevens. please hit like and subscribe. It helps to grow my little channel and I appreciate it. And I will see you next time.